One thing a lot of people don't realize is how you can kind of game the system a little bit by declaring war on the Netherlands first. And by doing it in 1936, before the Allies have even formed their faction and won't bother defending the Netherlands. So we're going to try that out and see how that goes. Okay, so if you're doing the early Dutch War first, you're going to have Germany already set up however you normally set it up. I set Germany up the way I usually do. I have a video for that. I'll link it into the description once it's finished. But for now, how do we set up the early Dutch War? Well, this area here is essentially a demilitarized zone. My troops may not enter it, but that doesn't mean I can't plan to enter it later. Moo ha 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 ha. But this is my assault group. We're going to plan for a offensive line that essentially encompasses the entirety of the Netherlands. I like to put these guys, they're going to be in the north, and they're going to capture for me the important places in the north. Then I've got my 2nd Panzer Corps that I put down here in the south, taking over the important places in the south. Now, if you've got a sharp eye, you might have noticed that I used the spearhead tool instead of the offensive line tool. Offensive line is going to mean that they don't just attack, they also focus on defending, whereas spearhead is all about pushing forward. They ignore the defense, they don't really try to keep that continuous front line, and they are going to run the risk of potentially getting cut off if they're not supported by somebody like this that has the front line offensive line order. And when the Spanish Civil War happens, we want to participate by sending our Air Force down there as air volunteers. That'll get us some air experience. When the war begins here in the Netherlands, it'll send the volunteers home, and we can then use them in the Netherlands. And when that war's over, we can then go back and send both air and land volunteers into Spain. We actually need 50 points. I don't know why it says 1 point here. We need 50 points to justify this. So I'm just going to let this run until we get there. So while we're running, you'll notice a couple of things that have happened because my front line is in this demilitarized zone. Some of my units, namely this tank corps here, don't want to move. So I'm going to manually move them closer to the front line so that when the war begins, they won't have as far to go before the battle begins. After we've got our naval efforts, you could keep going down and getting more. I know a lot of people are probably wondering, why did I go down the naval tree to begin with when we've got this right here that we could be doing? If you're doing the early Dutch, you're going to have so much oil that you can pretty much continuously train the Navy. Already, just 3 months into the game, I've got a ton of experience from naval exercises. This one's done. Roll straight into this one to continue getting that research speed bonus. Now, as you start deploying your troops that you are building, you're going to want to put them somewhere where they can assist in the invasion. Who's a good commander for this? Really kind of just depends on your personality. Since these are my light infantry guys, I don't want to give them necessarily an attack fortress type commander, because I'm not going to send light infantry against heavy fortifications. That's dumb. Right here, good mix of stats. I could use that. Then you have to start thinking about what you're going to put in for your policies. The silent workhorse to get the extra 15% political power, so you're generating more and more power. As Germany, I don't feel like you necessarily need that, because you're going to generate enough power as it is. And then other folks like to do the industrial research. And if you're not doing early Dutch, generally you do this one, which gives you synthetic research as well as industrial research. But since I'm going to have fuel and rubber from my resources, I don't need this. There are 3 things I'm going to do first that probably make no sense to most people. I'm going to look at my tank designer, my ship designer, and my aircraft designer. Why am I doing that? Well, I'm going to do a lot of Navy and air research early on, and I'm going to want the bonus that it applies to research speed. The very first thing I'm going to do is actually take the mobile tank designer. That extra 10% reliability is on any design that I put in from this point forward. We have 2 new pieces of research. Now, this could help us most directly in our upcoming war, but I don't think we're going to need help defeating the Netherlands. So instead, I'm going to focus on what are some things that I'm going to need after the war. I'm going to need to be able to produce the scout planes, so I'm going to go ahead and research the scout planes. I forgot to do this earlier, so if I were to research this now, I would be wasting my 100% bonus. So instead, I'm going to work on better sonar so I can detect submarines better. So we also have a bunch of industrial things that we could do. I have 2 free technologies open right now, so I'm going to go ahead and start working on my various industries. Most of the time, I have played with dispersed industry because I used to get bombed like crazy. Lately, I haven't been getting bombed very much, and if I am getting bombed, I'm getting logistics bombed. So why not just build this and get the extra output? So I'm going to go ahead and research this instead. Alright. We're going to get those factories back that I've been converting. Now would also be a good time to back off on the training of the ships. That way they don't accidentally get killed out at sea while they're doing an exercise. Now's also a good time to go ahead and decide what you're doing with your Air Force. And you know what I totally forgot to do? Forgot to send those air volunteers to Spain. I had them ready. They were right here. Can't do it now because as soon as I send them, they'll just get called back. Alright, I can now officially declare war. But before I do, I want to make sure that everybody has the promotions that they need because I have some command power available. So he's going to get his aggressive assaulter. My panzer guy is going to get his panzer unit. My other panzer guy is going to get his guerrilla. And I don't think he has a promotion. Yes, he does. Charismatic. Fantastic. Alright. Now, you might think, well, why isn't he greenlighting his plans? If I start the war right now, all that's going to happen is I steamroll these guys. And they lose. And then I take this. But their colony has not joined the war yet. So I won't get any of that colonial area until they join the war. So I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to sit here with war declared and do nothing except bomb them. Nothing. There we go. The Netherlands have called the Dutch East Indies as our enemy. That's at war with us. And if we win the war now, we take that territory too. Green light.
To the east, the railway bridge is assaulted from both ends at once. A third attack strikes out for the town of Moerdijk. With their commander leading the way, another platoon drives south to neutralize the Dutch strong point. The town of Moerdijk. Over on the highway bridge, the platoon commander and one sergeant have reached the north bank. Meanwhile, on the railway bridge, the other platoon has worked its way across the tracks to get behind the embankment. The defenses are knocked out. By fierce artillery fire, Dutch batteries are still trying to destroy the bridges. The mission at Moerdijk has been accomplished. This set the stage for the surrender of the Netherlands.
And that's the war. It's over already. They don't have a lot of equipment to give us. We do get 11 trains, which is actually something I'm kind of excited about. First thing you're going to want to do, definitely going to want to grab the actual homeland area here. So we're going to end the turn on grabbing that. And then you're going to want to grab this piece of territory here. 59 oil. Who doesn't like that? We're going to do that the supply situation's bad. We're going to be sandwiched between the French and the British. It's just not going to work out. If you satellite the territory, it is theoretically possible that you might be able to hold on to it because they might not invade it as quickly. Satellite the Dutch East Indies. Two things are going to happen. Thing number one, they're going to build their own armed forces, which is going to help you later on when you're using their manpower and their equipment instead of yours to fight a little bit of the Pacific War. The other thing it's going to do is, even though you don't have the resources directly under your control, you can still trade for them. One factory gives you 80 rubber and a ton of oil. So you're going to get all that you need very easily without much effort. And you can use this still as a staging base for your other attacks. And because it's not going to be dragged into the war immediately, it won't be immediately invaded either. So you can get away with having a lighter defense over here. So I've got the air training, I got the navy training, and I can spend 10 army experience points on developing a tank. Now you might think, well, let's just improve Panzer II. Let's get it that 3-man turret. Let's get it some extra modules like sloped armor or ammunition storage. Let's just boost this thing up to be the baddest tank that we can make it. But what I have begun thinking is the right call is designing a brand new tank to go in our primary infantry division. It's going to replace some of this artillery. Well, if we add the Panzer II as it currently exists, we are going to spend 5.6 production on every single tank that we put into our infantry unit. And we're going to have a lot of infantry units, and then that's not going to have enough tanks for any more tank units. So how do we solve this problem? Interwar light tank chassis. 2 production points. Bonus reliability because of our tank designer. Heavy machine gun. Super cheap. Lots of soft attack. 10 piercing, which is pretty much all you need to pierce the recon tank anymore. Okay? Then what are we going to do? Well, it's in an infantry unit, right? So it doesn't have to be fast. So we can boost that armor stat. And we can do extra ammunition storage. Right now we got a tank that's a value of 3. 72% turret value. Breakthrough 31. 3 value tank. This is a nifty little button here if you're not familiar with it. Inside the division editor, you click on equipment and you tell them what equipment they're not allowed to use. They're not allowed to use any interwar light tanks in my panzer units anymore. Now, in my infantry divisions, we are going to use light tanks. Just like this. And we're going to not allow Panzer IIs. We will allow Panzer Is, and we will allow all of these older tanks. That's perfectly fine. And that is how we are going to divide our equipment up. Only the crappy little tanks that we're building are going to go to those infantry divisions. Well, it's still only November 1936. There is a long, long way before World War II officially begins. So where are you going to start it? That's what you have to think about. Are you going to wait for Italy to start it? Because if you wait for them, it's either going to start in Greece or Yugoslavia. Are you going to wait until you start it yourself and try to jump the gun? If you do that, you're going to wind up with Yugoslavia, Poland, or something else. 6 reserve quality guys defending this spot, and you're going to need to increase the port capacity, add an airbase. So some ports are going to be good, and some rail network to carry supplies. And you're going to need a full garrison army, 72 divisions, just to guard these 2 islands. But between that 72 division army guarding these 2 islands and the units that they provide you, you'll be able to hold these 2 islands against pretty much everything the AI throws at you. 75% of the time, if you attack fast enough, you can get Malaya just using their troops and your submarines for naval support. That ends the beginning.